Morning, YouTube. Today we're going to be talking about the disassembly, the full disassembly of a Glock 42. First of all, make sure that your weapon is clear. It's very important to make sure that there's no magazine or anything in it. You're going to next need to remove the slide from the weapon, and you do that in your normal field strip. Just set the slide apart. Use a roll of masking tape, and then what you're going to have to do is you're going to have to release the front pin. It's just above the trigger, and that's the first pin that you need to get out of there. Just use a drift or a punch, and then sort of jiggle the slide stop to help release the pin. Pins always go from left to right. They always are removed from left to right. I had to use another little smaller drift to push the pin all the way out. Now that front particular pin is actually a metal pin. So just have a metal bowl around, magnetic bowl, and keep that. And take a close look at the pin itself and just see how it came out, so that when you put it back in, it goes in the same way. Okay. Okay, the next step is to remove the barrel locking block. And what you do is you just sort of pry it up against the plastic of the frame itself, not against the other internal bars that are in there. Just gently pry that upward, and it'll come out. You can see how I'm doing that. Okay, so the locking block is right there. It's got holes at the bottom that the pin went into. Okay, set that aside. The slide catch just sort of lifts right out. You can kind of take a look at the slide catch itself. It's a little bit different than the other Glocks. It's got a little spring at the end. And I know they make some upgraded parts, some aftermarket parts for this particular slide catch. Okay, so set that aside. Fairly easy to do. So take a look at what you just took out. Okay, so the next step is to remove the smaller rear plastic pin. There's only 2 pins in the Glock 42. Do the same way from the left to the right. It's a little bit smaller pin, so you're going to have to get a little smaller drift in order to do it. This pin holds in the trigger group assembly itself. It's fairly easy to push out. It's plastic. Just sort of set that aside. That's really the only thing that's holding in the trigger assembly group. And you just lift it out very gently by the bar itself, transfer bar. And that is the guts of the trigger assembly group, and you can see how it's connected. I'm not taking any of the other parts out inside, like the magazine catch or anything like that. Let's go ahead and take a look at the trigger assembly. What you want to do is you want to gently twist the cruciform, which is that T-shaped piece, off of the back piece. And you end up with 2 pieces here. The front transfer bar that's attached to the trigger itself, and then the other piece which is lying down there, which has got the little connector on it. Take a close look at the crucible, which is that cross, and the little sear, which is the little piece that's in the back of the cross of the crucible itself. This is really the guts. It's really interesting to see how the guts, the internal guts of the, here's a close-up of the connector and the housing itself. You can see that. Now, I didn't disassemble any of those pieces. So let's go ahead and do the next thing. We're going to take apart the slide itself. The first thing is to go ahead, just like in your field strip, remove the recoil spring and then slide out the barrel, just like you normally do. Just set those aside. Easy. Now what you got to do is use a small tool to relieve the tension on the firing pin spring that you can see. It's a little black plastic thing in the back. Now what you got to do is you have to push that down, relieve the tension on the firing pin spring, and then with your thumb slide the black back plate off. Now hold your finger over that because there's a couple of springs back there that you don't want to lose. So set that back plate off. There's some aftermarket replacements for that. The next thing is to slide out the firing pin assembly itself. Now, I didn't disassemble any of this. This is the guts. This is the firing pin that easily slides backwards. Make sure you note how it's oriented with the tab facing upward. The firing pin itself is a little bit different on a Glock 42. I believe it's square on a regular Glock. It's roundish here. There's another extractor depressor plunger that has to be pulled out. This is part of the extractor that keeps tension on the extractor. And the pointy end of that goes in first, and the spring goes towards the back of the slide. So just gently pull that out. Don't mess with that. Just set it aside. Now what we're going to do is just sort of remove the extractor. Now you have to be careful because there's the safety, the firing pin safety, which is in the slide, is being held in there by that extractor pin. It's shot out just like that. Just keep your hand over it and watch out. That is the firing pin safety. It's a little bit different than the round ones found on regular Glocks. Make sure you don't lose the spring. Set that aside, then you can just gently pull out the extractor itself. Now the round part of the extractor goes to the back of the slide when you're reassembling. Just remember that. Okay, that is the disassembled Glock 42 as far down as I took it. Okay, just take a look at it, see what you're doing, and see how it looks. Okay, let's go ahead and talk about reassembly of the Glock 42 itself again. If you can put it back together and haven't lost all the parts, this is great. So we're going to, first of all, put the firing pin safety in. It only goes one way. There's only one orientation of this, and you got to take a look at that firing pin safety. The little notch goes towards the inside, and it only fits that way. So go ahead and gently place that in there. And just hold it with your thumb. And then what you got to do is you install the extractor. Remember with the ball at the end, that goes in. It locks itself into place. Then what you're going to do is put the extractor depressor plunger back in. Remember, the spring goes towards the back. Just gently slide that in there. Don't force it. If you force it, you probably put in the extractor wrong. But I don't know how you can. So the next thing is to go ahead and put in the firing pin group itself. Remember, just slide it in with the little tab up, and the pin has got to be forward. It just gently slides in there. Sometimes there can be a little bit of a tight fit because the spring itself sort of gets bound in the little slot that it goes into. But just gently push it in there. It'll be good. Easy. Okay, now we're going to put the back plate back on of the slide. This is a little bit tricky. What you want to do is you want to get a small tool, and what you have to do is start the back plate with your thumb, get it started, and then you have to use a small tool to compress the extractor spring and the firing pin spring as you push forward with the slide plate. Then it slides back on. Just go ahead and check the function of the slide itself. You should be able to slide the firing pin forward when you push the firing pin safety. Looks pretty good. I like this design. It's nice. Okay, the next thing, we're going to go ahead and install the barrel, just like what we've always done during our field strip. We put the recoil spring in, and then we make sure that the plate is set in the barrel cut there. Just double check everything again. It's looking good. We're almost there. Okay, now what we want to do is reassemble the trigger group itself. So we take the two pieces, and you have to get the cruciform, the front part of the cruciform, under the curved metal piece that is on the housing in the back. And you'll see it. See in this close-up how it's tucked under that little curve? And then you sort of twist it in and snap it into place and connect the two pieces. So I'm twisting it, and it goes back in. And you snap it down. You'll see how it works. Take a look at how this ingenious transfer bar system works. This is very, very ingenious. And I know some other pistols are now using this design. This is really neat. Hopefully there'll be some upgraded parts that come in later on. We want to take and now drop in the trigger assembly group just like when we had removed it. The trigger goes to the front, and then the back housing goes into the slot that's in the back of the frame itself. Just gently slide it in there. It should easily go in. That's a perfect fit and goes right in. Sorry about my head in the way. Now I'm looking for that small plastic rear pin, and I just want to slide that sucker back in. It just pushed right in, and then just sort of even it out from either side. That's holding in the trigger group on the rear side. Trigger assembly group. Now what we want to do is install the slide stop. It just overhangs over the edge. That edge overhangs, just gently slide that in there, make sure it's in place. Don't mess with the spring, don't jack that spring up. Okay. Now what we want to do is reinstall the lock block with the holes downward, just like that. Because you got to get all those holes. There's 4 holes that have to align. Just slide it in there. It's kind of a tight fit. Just gently push it in. Make sure everything's okay. And then jiggle the slide stop until you get the holes lined up. That way you can get the metal pin through. Now what I use is I usually put a smaller drift through and then go from the right side to the left side on the reinstall. Just gently back the pin or push the pin in and then back up the small drift and it goes right in. I'm sort of using this drift to sort of even out the metal pin and make sure that everything's locked into place. It's assembled now, so go ahead and put the slide back on the frame and then check the function. Trigger pulls, slide, it seems to be done. We're done.